around.
You know what
Yeah.
happened to me? It's not.
Thing, and he's not a traveler. So I'm in Vegas. That's why it's. I know just what you're talking.
Really stand. Yeah, for with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody's on? Okay. We have people online?
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay.
I think we're going to 7 here, report on the action. Both action.
Let's see. I guess do we need to do a roll call yet?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
an item on there to repeat the report.
Repeat the roll call.
Closed session after the roll call and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So can we have the roll call?
Sure. Director Gasca,
Present.
Director Hamilton.
Give him a minute. He's joining in.
Okay. Is he on there?
Present.
There he is. Director Townsend,
Present.
Director Mack,
Here.
and Director Townsend Smith.
Here.
Thank you.
Alfred, could we get a report on the potential action from closed session?
Yes, thank you, Vice President Gasca. Pardon my voice, I have this cold. But the board met in closed session to discuss 2 items. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D2. Both items were discussed, and there's one reportable item. The board reviewed and considered multiple claims submitted by Hazard Construction regarding change orders and cost issues on the Live Oak Park Bridge project. The board considered and rejected all claims received to date by Hazard Construction. And that completes the report from closed session.
Okay.
Hopefully you could hear that.
See, are there any additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda?
None from staff.
Okay. Any from the board?
No.
Okay. Okay, for those that are attending via teleconference or video or listening in audio wise, if at any point anyone would like to ask a question or make a comment and have joined this meeting with their computer, they can click on the raise hand button located at the bottom of the screen. We'll be alerted that they would like to speak. When called upon, please unmute the microphone and ask the question or make comments in no more than 3 minutes. Those who have joined us by dialing a number on their telephone will need to press *6 to unmute themselves and then *9 to alert us that they would like to speak. A slight pause will also be offered at the conclusion of each agenda item discussion to allow public members an opportunity to make comments or ask questions. Are there any oral or written communications from the public?
We have none from anyone online.
We
Okay,
have not received any written comments.
okay, thank you. Item 15 is approval of the minutes. The regular board meeting minutes for September 26, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Director Mack to approve the minutes as submitted, second by President Hayden. All those in favor?
I have to do a
Oh,
roll
you
call.
got to do a roll call. That's right. Sorry. Roll call,
Director-
please.
Director Gasca,
Aye.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Johnson. Aye. Director Mack.
Aye.
And Director Townsend Smith.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 16, Board of Directors comments and reports. First item A, President's report.
Have nothing specific to report. We have an election next Tuesday. I would encourage you to communicate with any ratepayer that they need to vote, however they choose.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Representative report, San Diego County Water Authority.
I think we're going to talk about that later. There was a report in there from the previous board meeting. There was also a board meeting in November. I just listened in on it. Nothing all that interesting to this group, but a couple of things I did want to mention. They did approve a new building, an operations and maintenance building. So eventually moving from their place in Escondido to across the way in Escondido, but a new building and operations center that they that's been in the plans for a little while. The other thing was and this was at the managers meeting that I went to down there, they were talking about some of the legislative activities. So they usually canvass all their member agencies to find out, or to propose, legislative priorities for the upcoming year. The one I think would be of interest was they received 3 from various agencies to amend the voting structure at County Water Authority. And so I think it's more the smaller agencies that want to see a change in the voting structure, not just by weight of total monies over the history of their existence, but also kind of a 2-stage vote where you'd have that, and it would be over a shorter period, like maybe the last 5 years of contributions to the County Water Authority, and then also a majority vote. So an action would require kind of a 2-pass system. And so there are some agencies that are pushing that forward. That would require a change to the County Water Act.
Okay. That's it?
That's it.
Yep. Item 2, CSDA.
Monday we had a refreshers it was a refresher training for me on governance training. It was pretty good. It was put on by a gentleman named David Aranda. One of the things that was kind of interesting, he put on a video, and I don't know if it was a real talk show. I think it was. And the gentleman, it was kind of funny, but he was basically first started talking about how much money is not wasted, but potentially rate payers have to pay. And it was the government. Then he goes, but the big thing is no one really knows about these special districts. And then he went on a rant and rave about special districts. And at the very end of the video, he started mentioning about this district of San Diego, which is us, and how once a year we put out $1,500 for children at school to learn more about special district. I go, oh, hey, that's us. So that was pretty cool. It's very informative. Again, it was just a refresher. This is the first of 4 modules, I believe they said. So I'm looking forward to going to the rest of them. If you guys can go to get a refresher, it's well worth it. It's very informative. And again, the first one was put on by Brent Ives. I thought he did an excellent job. And this gentleman, he actually works sometimes together and give this class. David does, and different point of view, but very, very similar. And I will say that they brought up again, I think we're very fortunate that our board works together, because he would give some instance of you wouldn't believe, like you think this is all made up, how some boards act. And I think we're very fortunate our board works together. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Item 3, LAFCO.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Santa Margarita River Watershed Water Master Steering Committee.
They had a meeting, I believe on the 18th, and unfortunately I was unable to attend, so I have nothing to report.
Okay. Item 5, Aqua. I think everybody got the Aqua News. I think the 2 items, of course, one is the November 28th through 30th Aqua Conference out at Indian Wells. And then there was a couple items in there that I thought were kind of interesting. Earlier in the year, I had attended a legislative session of Aqua up in Sacramento, and they're continuing work on a water bond for the November 24th ballot that would focus on providing about $15.5 billion in funding for various water and natural resources issues, including recycled water, desal, groundwater recharge, water storage, conveyance, dam safety, safe drinking water, PFAS remediation, water conservation, and several other critical water infrastructure categories. So that might be something we really want to try and keep an eye on. If it makes it to the election and passes, then there could be some monies there for the district to pursue. There was one other article in here that was kind of really pretty interesting to me, and it was a district that had gotten students involved, like middle school and high school students involved in volunteering, and they were doing advocacy work, getting to people in the community, obviously ratepayers, and helping them sign up with through the district to acquire Flume for their system. And I thought that was kind of getting a lot of feet on the ground to go and try and do something positive for the community. I don't know if it would work for us. I mean, it would be more a lot calling than it is somebody walking down the street, because we're not exactly all city block.
Citywide. You are city.
Unless they like walking a lot and they got one of those.
Hey, it's a good way to get the kids to get their exercise.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention it. That was about it there. Many reports for workshops. Well, I guess you gave one on your class. For many of the other directors, AB 1, 2, 3, 4.
I passed my AB 1, 2, 3, 4 last week.
Okay. No one else? Okay. Any comments from the directors?
I had the pleasure of doing the Hoover Dam inspection tour. Oh, it was fascinating. Anybody that gets a chance to do that, I would recommend it.
I've been wanting to do that.
Oh,
That sounds
that
great.
was really cool.
Yeah, the 2 times I've gone, they were shut down for maintenance.
Oh,
I was never able to get down to see the turbines and all the good stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was great.
good deal.
I
Lee,
have
oh,
something.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Last month I had the honor of meeting with the finance department. Oh, what an impressive team. And so thank you, Tracy, for you and your team. For
Speak
having-
up, Julie.
Oh, thank you, Tracy, for allowing me to meet with the finance department this past month. Very impressive team.
Thank you.
Okay. Item E, legal counsel comments.
Oh, thank you, Director Gaskin. Just briefly, since I lost my voice, I did an update on 2 new laws. Assembly Bill 334, which clarifies the new conflict of interest laws and Government Code 1090 requirements for contractors bidding on multiple phases of projects and the conditions where that's acceptable. And that bill was supported by many local government agencies, such as the League of California Cities and the California State Association of Counties. So that goes into effect January 1. And also did an update on Senate Bill 389, which related to the water rights bills we discussed before. The 2 most controversial water rights bills were made 2-year bills, but Senate Bill 389 did pass as originally proposed. Would have provided, pretty significant enforcement authority to the state board. But after, the opposition from Aqua and various organizations, it was substantially amended to be essentially more of just an information gathering clarification of the state water board's authority to gather information for water rights. But any enforcement would have to take basically under the existing provisions of the water code, specifically the trespass provisions for enforcement. And that bill will also take effect January 1. And also wanted to mention for anyone who will be at the Aqua Conference, you're all invited. NASAMN is hosting a reception right there on site on Tuesday, November 28th from 6:30 to 8:30 at the View Bar and Grill. And it will be a joint reception with NASAMN and the Water Education Foundation. I think many of you know I serve on the board of directors for the Water Education Foundation, and we're doing a reunion for the Water Leaders class, which I'm a graduate of that, as well as our engineering and CIP program manager, Chad Williams, is a graduate of that class as well. So hope you all can join us, complimentary food and drinks, and networking with other members of our water community. Our last reception, we even had the chair of the State Water Resources Control Board. So that concludes my report, unless there are any questions.
Any questions? Good. Okay, thank you, Alfred.
Thank you.
Moving on to committee reports. Budget and Finance.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, up there on the screen, and members of the board. The Budget and Finance Committee met on Tuesday, October the 10th, and considered a couple of items that you have on your calendar today. Items 26 and 27 were both reviewed by the committee, and the committee recommended that you adopt the staff recommendation on both of those items. Also, we had the opportunity to hear an excellent presentation on your item number 18, the cash reserve policy. Great presentation by Tracy, and I'm sure you'll appreciate what she has to say on that. The Engineering and Operations Committee did not meet in October, but ironically, we are meeting as soon as you're done with this room today at 3:30. I'm sure you'll be done. And the only significant development I have to report is that yesterday I received a phone call from Helene Brazier, who, after many years as a public activist around this district, and then as a board member of this district, and finally as a sitting volunteer committee member, she called me to say that that the phone call was the tendering of her resignation. And so she made it clear she could not be talked into staying. And I thanked her very much for her service. And this is a classic case of somebody who probably devoted a couple of decades of her life to attempting to make this district a better place for ratepayers. I'm sorry to see her depart, and I wish her the best. If you have any questions?
I would like to also acknowledge her presence in our community. She has been very involved with our community, especially Division 1. And what you shared, Flint, is absolutely true. She still cares and still is involved, but I'm saddened to hear of her decision.
Okay. Anything else? 3:30, our turn.
I guess one comment I'd make concerning Helene and her efforts. I think it would be great to see us put together some kind of a resolution for the, from the board, and then get it published. I know she isn't a big fan. She's never been a big fan of
those
giving her stuff. Okay. But I think it would be very appropriate to publish it in the paper, and thank her that way.
I agree. And
I second that.
Great idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Communications and customer service.
Yes, the committee met on October 5th. We discussed community outreach events. We recommended to the committee, and they agreed on scaling back our 70th anniversary celebrations, especially spending the funds on a large community event. We are still going to acknowledge it with digital assets. We'll repurpose some of the content that we already have from the history of the district video that Cynthia Gray worked on for a few years. We'll do a press release and some things like that, but we're just not going to put a lot of funds towards it because we want to be sensitive to, keeping our costs under control. But we would like to defer it to our 75th anniversary celebration, when hopefully we'll have more budget funds for that. We're also planning a field trip for the Bonsall High School students. They're going to be here tomorrow for their once a semester STEM class students. So the committee members have been invited to attend so that they could observe that process. But that's exciting to have them back for the second time. It was very popular the first time. We'll have about 15 students tomorrow. And then there was a firefighters open house on October 14th. Robert and some of his team members, Luke, our health and safety officer, all attended that. It was sort of focused on public safety, and they highlighted the heli hydrant and kind of gave away some of our old branding swag that we had in stock, so that we can do that. And then we also talked about the features for the October newsletter that was sent out this month.
Okay.
I'll just
Thank you,
add in
Colleen.
too the high school event that goes on here. I've heard from so many kids that have done that. I did an event last week. That was a scholarship thing that we were handing out to some of the Bonsall kids, and a number of them. Oh, hey, I went over to Rainbow and did your tour. It locally, it makes a big impact. So kudos to the team. These guys put together a great program.
Fantastic. Okay, I guess we're to item 18. The cash reserve policy. 5.03.220 compliance report presentation.
Oh, yes.
Where's the clicker?
So per our admin code, we are required to report out the cash reserve balances every year following the year-end close and the audit. We'll be presenting the audit at the next board meeting along with the ACFR. But these were ready to be presented, so we're going to go over those today. So some successes we've had since we last presented where we were at was our LAFCO vote, possible rate relief in 2024 for our wholesale water costs, and then the pass-through of the 5-year rate increases. Some challenges that have come up recently. We've had a declining water sales for July through September. This required us to take an early review of the mid-year budget adjustments. So I'm just going to give a high-level overview of what we're looking at for January. We're also pulling in some capital spending into fiscal year 24 from fiscal year 25. This is creating a little bit of a short-term capital funding shortage in the water capital fund. So we're going to go over that as well. So these are our cash balances by fund. For fiscal year 22, we ended with almost $21 million in cash. Fiscal year 23 was close to 18 million. So this just separates it out by operating and capital funds. And we're going to go into each of these a little bit. These are the target reserves that we adopted with the cost of service and 5-year rate increase. So in the first couple of years, we're really shooting to get towards that minimum level, which is 60 days of operating and maintenance expenses in our operating funds. In our admin code, we have it said that we would do 60 days less the cost of purchased water. Now that's not adequate, so we bumped that up in the cost of service study, and we're going to likely update the admin code for that as well. Now our plan over 5 years gets us to closer to a 90 days operating and maintenance. And then the different levels for our capital funds are usually just 1 year of the 5-year average capital plan, 1 to 2 years. Closer to 2 years for the ideal target. And then we are planning to refund the rate stabilization fund over the 5-year period. So first, this is our operating and debt service fund balances projection for the end of fiscal year 24. We started water operating with $6.4 million. We had budgeted in a surplus of 3 million, but this has been adjusted down for some different factors we'll go over, which include a decline in sales. We're projecting more of closer to 10,000 acre feet. And then also that first detachment payment. We're not factoring in any of the cost of the savings from the cost of water. So we do still want to fund that water capital amount of 3 million. We do still need to send that over. Just brings our projected ending water operating balance below where we had planned for this first year. We're going to go over why some of those are just some short-term issues in the upcoming slides. And then we have our other operating funds here, our wastewater operating general rate stabilization is 0 here, but you'll see it funded over the 5 years. And then you'll notice that new water sources fund, we have 1.4 million in it with another 200,000 coming into allocations this year. We're proposing that we use the remainder of that to help fund the water capital shortage for this year. And I'll go into that in another slide. So total for operating is $8 million. So we had budgeted sales at 12,700 acre feet. We're projecting if the rest of this year is like last year, as far as usage, we'll come in at 10,000 acre feet. It has gotten warmer this month, so that may not happen, but we like to plan for the worst. So
That's crazy.
it is. I remember Director Gasco when I was budgeting for 16.5 and you had us do 13.5.
Yeah.
Well, I blew that one, didn't I?
Yeah,
I
we
think
all
that's
did.
scary.
Mig.
So
Yep.
with that first detachment payment and the forecasting at 10,000 acre feet, we're forecasting an operating shortfall of about 1.5 million. So what we did is we got together as a management team and looked at areas where we could make adjustments now rather than waiting until January. We did have some unbudgeted revenue that came in. We plan on leaving the engineering position open for now. And then we can cut travel and training by 50%. We generally don't spend all of much over 50% by department. So these are all things that we're really not going to have much of an impact to departments. They generally spend under these amounts anyway. And we're looking at all the contractor consultant expenses in admin and public relations. Carlene had just said that we pulled back some on the 70-year anniversary and are going to do that for 75 years instead. And just some other various department level savings were identified that could be delayed. So this is our wastewater capital fund project budgets. We only have one project going on right now. It's the Big Lift Station 1 project. We had 5 million budgeted for this year. We do have some spending that was budgeted last year that didn't happen yet. So we're going to suggest that we roll that over into this next year. So this is our 5-year water capital fund balances. So we started, wastewater. We started wastewater with 1.6 million. We got that other 2.5 million from Citro. And then we did the $5 million debt financing. We've got the 1.6 million coming from the grant this year, and then a transfer from operating reserves, which leaves us with just over 11 million this year for the wastewater capital fund. And that 8.6 million we have left to spend on Lift Station 1 will leave us with $2.6 million going into year 2. So the wastewater capital fund is adequately funded. We likely won't need that $9.5 million funding in year 3. This is both the wastewater capital fund and the operating reserve balance together. So all in on wastewater, we have just over 3 million projected for the end of fiscal year 25. And then you can see years 2 through 5 there. Okay, now we're going to transition to the water capital fund projects. The first column there is all of the year 1 approved budgets for water capital and wholesale water. What you'll notice in the adjusted column that we're going to propose for January is the amounts go up and down on different projects, but the significant one is pump stations because we're pulling in funds from fiscal year 25 into fiscal year 24. On some of the other projects, we also have funding that rolled over from last year that was unspent. So we're going to detail those out at the mid-year budget adjustment request. Now, this next screen shows the area where I have some concerns. We started the year with the water capital fund at $5.4 million. We have that budgeted transfer of 3 million from operating that we're making adjustments on the operating side to make sure that we can still make that transfer. And then that $1.6 million from the new water sources fund, I'm suggesting that we pull that over into the water capital fund. That'll leave us $10 million available for spending. And you notice on that last screen, we had 14.9 proposed. Now we are planning for if we absolutely get everything done in fiscal year 24. It's likely that things will be delayed into fiscal year 25. So what this is just a short-term capital funding shortage in water. You can see in year 2, we only have just under $2 million planned in capital project spending. So it's really just a short-term funding problem if we actually do all those projects in that fiscal year 24. Likely that they'll get delayed. You can also see in year 3 through 5, these funds building up over time. So let's look at this with both the water capital fund and the water operating fund balance. It brings us basically to 0 at the end of fiscal year 24 for these two funds. Now we do have pooled cash, so all in our cash isn't going to get this low, but we're planning worst case scenario here. Oops. This, and like I said, this includes, doesn't include our savings on wholesale water, and it does include that first payment. You can see in year 3, we start funding the rate stabilization fund. And that bottom total water funds balance, you start to see the effect of the increases compounding for rate. So that's that 5-year plan going into effect there. So we do have a really good plan over the 5 years, just a little bit of concerns in this year 1. So these are the projected cash balances by fund for fiscal year 25. So I was saying we have pooled cash. So when we pull all our cash together, it has us ending the year around $6 million in cash, which is significantly lower than I'm comfortable with. Means that we're going to have to really watch things throughout the year. And I have some recommendations on the ending slides we'll get to. Again, this doesn't include that $7 million savings in the cost of water, because it's unknown when that will start, but it does include that payment 1 for detachment in January. Okay. So there was some talk about possibly paying the whole detachment cost up front. So I looked at some different debt options for that. Our debt coverage ratio right now with our fiscal year 24 increased rates is 3.4, which is good. That's your operating revenue less your operating expenses. How much you have left to cover your debt. We can cover our debt 3.4 times. For a AAA rating, only requires a 2.0 debt coverage ratio. So if we were to look at a $15 million loan over 10 years at 5%, it would bring our debt coverage ratio down to 2.2. So I've put some feelers out there with banks just with an RFP just to see what would be available if that was an option. I've also met with Dave Schenk from FPUD to discuss doing a joint bond to cover if both districts wanted to pay that upfront, just so that we know what our options are. With a joint bond issuance, we'd be splitting the bond costs, so that might be worth it at this lower amount. Mm-hmm. Usually when you go out for a bond, you do it for 20 million or more. So we're looking at those options. So recommendations from finance is no new expenditures this year. No new expenditures. So sometimes when we go into mid-year budget adjustments, that's a time when departments will come forward with something they didn't think of, or an idea of something new to add. This year, I'm recommending that we don't do anything new at mid-year, and probably not with the fiscal year 25 budget. No new positions, and review all consulting contracts, because we do have a lot of consulting contracts that were a part of detachment. So this is a really good time to review those. And just make sure that as managers that we're having clear communication of all financial impact on board action. Also, I'm recommending that we have a budget workshop at mid-year. This would be with the board and the Budget and Finance Committee. We did something similar to this in 2019, where we got together and discussed the rates and just had a really nice collaboration on that. We can go over the long-term fiscal sustainability plan with declining water sales and talk about what the cost of service study and the rate plan is with the tech. So, do we want to fund infrastructure replacement, rebuild cash reserves, rate stabilization? These are all things that we would go over together in that workshop. Also address possibly setting up a Section 115 trust to offset the unfunded pension liability. That's something that we would do once we got the rate stabilization fund replenished. Any questions?
I have one. By January, we should have a better idea. I apologize. My question is, by January, we would probably have a better idea of how things are going with the water authority, so it might be a little bit more clear on some of the financial stuff. Yes or no?
Well, potentially. Yeah, I mean, those talks are ongoing, and this is something we talk about daily, to be quite honest. The timing is really unknown though on those savings. So that's what I think that's what Tracy's putting forward is kind of worst case. We don't know the timing of that, and we have to plan for the worst, right? 10,000 acre feet. That assumes the same as last year. And you know what last year looked like, right? It was very wet. Now it could happen again. But kind of baking in all the worst case assumptions, which is prudent for planning ahead. Her plan on the debt too, I think is appropriate. I mean, really, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a short-term spend because we have some large capital projects, right? We're finished, beyond the lift station, the pump station projects. These are large undertakings by the district. And so that's really what's causing, along with the declining sales. That's something long-term we're going to have to deal with. But this year, though, it wasn't terrible as far as, Tracy budgeted actually really well to kind of accommodate for that. We had some pluses on the number of meters and other things that kind of offset that a little bit. But obviously looking forward, we need to be really careful about that. But I think the debt issuance is probably the key going forward, regardless, because we do have these capital projects, and so funding a portion of those in debt, especially when you have a 3.4 debt coverage. I mean, you've got some capacity there to take on some debt, and it just helps you in the short term. So to answer your question, that's kind of a long-winded one, but I think we may have a better handle on timing. It certainly will be appropriate time for a budget workshop. But I think regardless, if we don't have even a great handle on timing, even at that point, we're kind of prepared to move forward either way. So
and we'll have more information on where we're at with water sales in January.
Sort of going off what Michael Mack has mentioned. In your report, is there any indication of the cost of the detachment to our ratepayers at this time?
The cost of the detachment
As of this time?
Other than the 15 million?
Mm-hmm.
No, nothing definitive.
Is it appropriate for us to have that information?
There's some indirect because of the capital improvement program, such as the pump stations.
Well, those we had
Right.
planned on doing anyway in order to save on the
That's
transportation
true.
costs.
Yeah.
So we have an positive ROI on that regardless. So the pump stations are happening regardless of detachment.
That's true. That's true. You're correct.
Okay,
So
are
the
there
costs are
other
the
costs?
unknowns of any legal costs, I
Mhm.
would say. And
Right.
we will have a better estimate of that in January.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
I was going to say, do we have a way to estimate what the cost is of detachment?
Aside from the detachment fee, we'll work on an estimate for January that'll include potential legal fees.
Yeah, and it also includes any of the terms and conditions if we reach a settlement agreement have to be factored in as well.
Yeah, any projections of extra work to staff in order to enable whatever requirements there might
Mhm.
be for those.
I don't think we're
activities.
going to have any additional staff costs. I mean, obviously it's a time burden on myself and others, but I don't anticipate any additional staff costs.
Yeah.
Like I said,
We would
Go
have some costs with the cost of service study, but those we would have anyway, because we always have to figure out what the wholesale water
Yeah.
costs are.
I guess what I'm referring to is like if they go to go to close off some of the turnouts
Yeah, the decommissioning of the turnouts, for
Yeah,
example.
and
Don't we have some responsibility to do?
well, that's
keep
all.
an eye on what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's all part of, the discussions that are going on now. So
Going on,
I
yeah.
think in January, we definitely will have a better handle if those are going to occur, in the near future or not.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, it's still a little unclear. So that's why Tracy
Yeah.
bringing to you this.
Well, I would appreciate in January at the latest that the board does have an understanding of the cost of detachment, including legal, the consultants. So we are aware of that because some of us are having ratepayers asking. And so I would appreciate that. At the time, this is what it's cost so far.
And that would give us the opportunity to bring the ratepayers in and have them be part of the process. My
Exactly.
thought was that we could do that on the regularly scheduled Budget and Finance Committee date.
Okay. And also, I've heard many times about a healthy reserve fund. Where are we and where is that in our desire to be a healthy reserve fund?
We are well below where we should be. So right now, I had hoped to at least have the water operating at the $6.8 million minimum, and we're going to be closer to 4 million at year end if sales are at 10,000 acre feet. The water capital should be 1 year of the 6-year average, which is around 6 or 7 million. And if we spend the $14 million this year, we'll be zero at the end of the year.
Of reserve funds.
Yes.
So that is significant.
Hence the recommendation to take on some debt.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
And that'll
Sure.
alleviate some of the spending with for that first payment.
right.
It'll keep our reserve levels higher, which you really want to have high reserves in case you have a catastrophic event. When we went into
Right.
COVID, we couldn't collect on accounts. We couldn't shut people off. People stopped paying their bill. So it helped that we had healthier reserves at that time because we went through some of it. So we want to build those back up. And we do have a really solid plan over the 5 years to do that. We just need to be really careful this year and look at all our options and make adjustments proactively.
Well, I appreciate your transparency to the board. And also I would appreciate a copy sent to myself, and maybe the other board members of this PowerPoint, so we could go into it deeper.
Okay.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
I guess one of the questions I've got is, in this look that you just presented, does it factor in the wind down of, the meter replacement program? Okay. I mean, we're coming to the end of that, and I know it was going to be, some point here in the not too distant future that would end. And so then any impact of that additional work that's been ongoing, it allows.
So we've had some additional work
tightening,
with
so.
the meter replacement where the 1-inch meters were failing.
Mhm.
We've had to replace the meters. So we're aggressively replacing those to get that water loss back down. But I always say I budget conservatively. This budget includes an 8% water loss. So we do expect to get that down significantly this year.
Okay.
But the costs of it, those have been pulled out.
Yeah. All right. Good deal. Thanks. Any other questions? Good.
No, I would like to see us try to maybe, I don't know how to put it, sell off some of our assets or so. I mean, instead of don't spend any money. We have assets that we could possibly get some money from. Has that been we're looking into that?
That is something I know Chad's kind of on top of this. We have a couple of properties that we don't have a intended use for, a property that we bought for a potential treatment plant that we don't think is really viable, and really not in our long-term plans, and had some good value. So of course, as a public agency, we have to go through the Surplus Property Act. And so you have to declare it surplus. It has to be made available to other public agencies first, and then you can sell it privately beyond that. So I know there's at least 2 properties that we're working on currently in that regard. So yes, we are doing some of that. He did take me to Beck Reservoir too, I have to say, and we've got to do something with that, right? So actually, I won't give away any future items, but we're talking about it. There's some interest. I talked with FPUD a little bit, and maybe have some ideas on that too. I don't know if that's going to be a revenue generator directly, but anyways, the properties is the immediate one. Yeah.
Could we go back to your slide of your recommendations?
This one or the one before it?
The one before. Yes. Is there any action plans for those four bullets?
So this is finances recommendations that at mid-year, this is what's included in mid-year, that we don't bring forward any new positions, expenditures. That we really look at all the consulting contracts and do a review on if they're necessary going forward. I know a lot of them are related to detachment. Maybe we don't need all of those now that the vote's done. And just really making sure that we have clear communication of the financial impact on all board reports. And to me, that just means really making sure we look at the cost impacts. And even if it was budgeted, that you looking at the necessity as an item can be delayed. I don't like the idea of delaying things that keep our assets in a state of good repairs, but
right.
If it's
Yeah.
temporary, then
I mean, I just say it too, these are kind of general guidelines for what we're doing, right? And so, I mean, one example, the groundwater project, right? And we've kind of put that on hold as we try to secure grant funding or other things that may make it feasible, but for the time being, just to, again, get across the cash crunch. So I think these things are kind of just themes that Tracy's imposed on staff, and they're very responsive, and you have great staff. So they're doing everything they can, but these are kind of the, general guidance that we're using in the short term.
And for now, just really focus on those big capital projects that we have to get us through detachment and the lift station one. Rebuild our reserves so we can look at doing bigger pipeline replacement plans. And if we don't have reserves at a certain level, we won't be able to get long-term financing for a larger scale pipeline replacement plan. So we need to focus on what we need right now, rebuild reserves, and then think bigger.
Right, because one of the concerns I heard from your report is the reserve fund. And that is why I'm looking at this, because that is critical. There's a lot of pressure, because of this, I would say not ideal reserve fund that we have. So if we're looking at this, I would encourage more conversation, I guess, in January of what exactly in these 4 bullet points can we do as action plans as staff and the board to specifically look at what present practices are and what are some that we would like to enhance and those that we would like to really look at to see what the impact is. Because this is significant and these are very good 4 points, but I'd like to see more depth in what we're going to be doing.
Right. My goal today was just to bring the board up to speed, high level on what we're looking at going in our plans.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Tracy, is there any plans for getting more developer monies?
Lower interest rates.
Most of my time reviewing plans, and it's more beating down the doors of the developers. We are working on that.
Okay.
Tracy, just a quick question relative to the feelers you put out about financing. What sort of responses did you get again?
So I put an RFP out to all the banks we did with the wastewater loan. I have a due date of November 10th on that, so I can update you at the December.
Okay, so, all right. I was just wondering whether there was a positive or a negative or no response.
My goal was to get that
It's
out
a little early.
before the feds raise the rates again. And while our reserve levels are still pretty high at the 18 million that we ended the year with, and just closing up the year end and having a newly published hack for this month, we'll be able to use that as our backup. So right now we can tell a pretty good story.
Okay. Thank you. It's a little early for the responses. That's what I needed to know.
Okay. Anything further? Moving on to consent calendar items. 19. Consider.
Thank you, Tracy.
Oh, sorry. Consider approval of a joint agreement to improve major subdivision County of San Diego tract for Citra Development Division 4.
Actually, can't consent calendar items all be taken together?
Yes.
19,
Oh, yeah, right.
21, 22.
All of the
Oh,
time.
that's true. Yep.
And the only question I have there is each one of those items have a option A and an option B with staff recommendations, and it's kind of hard unless we choose to vote, in which I would recommend that I would like to move that we accept the staff recommendation, which is, I believe, option 1 on all of these proposals and vote on them unless there is an objection to that.
Hayden, are you referring to the consent calendar items?
Yep.
That's correct.
Thank you.
So that's
Okay.
items 19 through 22.
You have a motion?
Yep. You made a motion, right, Hayden?
That's correct.
I'll
I
say,
move that we accept option 1, staff recommendation.
Got it.
For all 4 of these items, unless there is a objection by a board member.
It's been moved by President Hamilton and seconded by Director Mack to approve the consent items per staff's recommendation. Whatever, roll call vote. Unless there's any discussion. No. Okay. Roll call, please.
Director Gasca,
Aye.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Johnson,
Aye.
Director Mack,
aye.
and Director Townsend Smith.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to board action items, item 23. Now we get to go through it. Consider approval to quit claim easements for Province Development, TM 4736-1, Division 1.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of taking Director Johnson out on this site and then General Manager Jake Wiley out as well. And so this one has come before the board before. This is an active development. I informed Jake in a meeting about a week ago. It pains me to say this. The developers already informed me that this is changing yet again. And so as they continue to develop their process and work through with the County of San Diego on exactly where these roads are going to go, where the curb and gutter is going to go, if there's a brow ditch, a center median, any of those things affects, because these are private roads within the Bonsall Oaks development. So we have easements with them. It's not public right away. So I said during the meeting, I'm literally taking this to my next board meeting and you're telling me there's another change coming. They assure me they are ironing it out, but there's still several phases to go. So if the board prefers this to be on a consent calendar going forward, staff can do that. This does not this is quid pro quo. We are not giving away anything for free. We are trading where our existing easements are for a different location. So if anyone recalls that development previously, our water lines just ran through backcountry. Now it's going to be roads, homes, center medians, etc. So we don't need the old water lines where they were. We don't need those old easements. So we're just trading everything to where it will be, and all of our facilities will be covered. So that's what this is. It's a formality to have to go through this.
At the last board meeting, Chad, wasn't it a quit claim or something like that on alignment with the electrical?
Correct. That was I believe a joint agreement with us. and SPG.
Joint agreement.
Yes.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So
Lots
it's a
of
fairly fluid situation.
It is. And to Director Townsend Smith's previous question, it's a good sign that the development is continuing, even though these interest rates are going. They are very interested in selling these homes. And so the district is obviously, we want those cap fees for water and sewer. And so we're working with them, and it's a process, and each one of these gets vetted to ensure that we have not given away any of our rights or anything.
Okay.
I would move we accept option 1 and also consider moving it to consent calendar unless finances were involved, financial impact of some sort.
Okay.
I second.
Okay. Been moved by President Hamilton and seconded by Director Johnson that item 23 be approved per recommendation, and that it be moved to in the future, any items with regard to this development be moved to the consent calendar. We have a roll call vote.
Director Gasca,
Aye.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Johnson,
Aye.
Director Mack,
Aye.
and Director Townsend Smith.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item 24, discussion and possible action to approve resolution number 23-26, a resolution establishing classifications and monthly pay ranges for district employees and the general manager effective October 24th, 2023 through June 30th, 2024.
So as most of you may know, Dawn, who's been with us nearly 20 years, has given us notice of her intent to retire in January. So as is customary, when we're going to have a single incumbent position become vacant, I did an updated market analysis for the pay ranges to ensure that, you know, when we're hiring in a successor, that we're doing it at an appropriate market rate. And our current pay grade was significantly above market. 30% overall, and about 15% for the senior level hourly classifications that don't supervise other employees. So my recommendation is to create a series classifications so add 2 levels to this position underneath the existing level, so that we can hire in at a more market appropriate rate for this position without negatively impacting the incumbent before her retirement. Assuming that the board decides to approve this, we have already posted the position at the recommended pay rate so we would know that we would have an appropriate response, and we got 240 applications at the lower pay grade. So we're very excited about our response.
I don't take full credit for that.
And so I think even at the lower grade, competitive, and people are very interested. So we've got a good slate of candidates.
Okay. Any questions?
How are you going to hone that down?
I already have it honed down to 13 people.
Oh, you do?
To choose from to interview.
Okay.
They have this incredible system.
Yeah.
We've got good responses, maybe 3 or 4 from other water agencies, many from cities who don't pay as well as water agencies typically. So we've got a lot of really great qualified people to consider. And we have chosen next week for a tentative interview date. So
Who will be on the interview team?
myself, Jake, Dawn, Chad, and
Potentially one more.
potentially one other
Yeah.
that's yet to be identified.
I move we adopt the resolution 23-26.
Second.
It's been motioned by President Hamilton, seconded by Director Johnson to approve the resolution number 23-26. Have a roll call vote.
Director Gasca,
Aye.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Johnson,
Aye.
Director Mack,
Aye.
and Director Townsend Smith.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 25, discussion and possible action to approve ordinance number 23-06, amending and updating administrative code Title IV, Personnel Rules and Regulations, Section 4.01.140, Service Awards.
Yeah, so we have service boards currently in our admin code that go up through 30 years. And I'm happy to report that next month we will have an employee reach 35 years service. So I conducted a survey of 12 other agencies in the area to see, what other agencies do for their service awards. So I'm recommending we continue with the 5-year increments as our current admin code has, and add a level for 35 years and 40 years, because we do have a couple of people who have the potential to reach that level of service with us.
Now, I've been in education for a while.
At the same organization. That's
Right.
the key there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll just
That's
say,
true.
I mean,
Yeah.
the type of value that those people bring
Oh, yeah.
to the organization too, when you're here 5 and then
Yeah.
10 and 15, just that institutional knowledge, it's just especially at a water district. I don't know, that's been a lot of my experience, but I'm sure a lot of other places too, but especially a place like this, it just,
Yeah, they know where all the pipes buried.
that's right. They know where all the skeletons are buried and all the problems. And it's invaluable. So
I agree.
Any other discussion? Nope. Roll call Oh, wait, I guess a motion?
I'll make the motion for
And I'll second.
option one, I assume.
Yeah.
Staff recommendations, option one. Yes.
Okay, it's been moved by Director Johnson, seconded by President Hamilton to approve the ordinance amending administrative code on personnel rules and regulations service awards. Roll call vote.
Director Gasca,
Aye.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Johnson,
Aye.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Townsend Smith.
Aye.
Okay. Item 26. Discussion and possible action for a variance request for customer credit for the difference in account class rates from the September 2020 to November 2022, Division 2 item.
I'm going to take this for Tracy. I know she had to skip out. But this was something that was presented at the Budget and Finance Committee and recommended by them, staff's recommendation. And bottom line, we had a customer and we'd had some dealings over the last, I think it was last couple of years, where they had taken over a property and they were looking at different options, downsizing their meter and things. They had decided, I think, to, at least for the time being, that they weren't, used to be an ag property and they weren't utilizing it as a agriculture. It was just a residence. And so various conversations presented them options, but eventually they got to where they wanted to switch customer classes, which is allowable per our code. And so we did that. But then they requested a variance. They wanted to go back the last couple of years and receive a credit for any of the fixed charges for being on the other side of that. Our admin code does not allow staff to make that kind of a determination. And the staff's recommendation does not do that. It's not what we typically do. We're happy to accommodate people who want to switch rate classes, but there's lots of different reasons why people do that. And there's lots of reasons why they might switch back, right? And that's, so it kind of opens a can of worms if we start doing those kind of things. And so our recommendation is we're obviously, we allowed the customer going forward to be on this the residential rate and off the ag rate. But we're recommending not refunding back as requested.
As crass as it seems, it's not our responsibility to educate the ratepayer.
Yeah.
The information's there. They can dig it out. They can ask questions.
Yeah. On that note too, I will say we have in the past, obviously we publish this every once in a while where we have, just informing the public. We have different rate classes, there are options available and adjustments you can make, whether it makes sense for you or not. And we're planning to do that again. So,
And also as a former member of the Budget and Finance, there are requests that continue to come, and consistency, I think, would be critical. So I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
A little over $4,000 was the request, and we're recommending allowing them to move forward with it, but not going back.
My recommendation motion is to approve option 2, which is to deny the request.
Yeah, I second that.
Okay. Motion by President Hamilton, second by Townsend Smith. Director Townsend Smith to deny the variance request. Roll call vote.
Director Gasca,
Aye.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Johnson,
Aye.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Townsend Smith.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 27. Discussion and possible action to approve a bill adjustment for account 018412-000 for amount of time a construction meter was not being used from October 2022 to present and waive late fees. It's a Division 3 item.
Yes. So similarly, but not exactly the same. We had a construction meter. So a customer had requested a construction meter. We provided it. They were doing some grading on the property. And in about, they said they were done in July 2021, and had apparently made the request for us to come pick up the construction meter, to come remove the construction meter. The construction meter did not get removed. We went back to our phone records and all that, and we couldn't tell whether they had actually done that or not, whether they had made the request or not. So it's unclear to us whether that request had actually been made. But we did go back to the usage information, and that's included in the packet. And there was a zero the first month. Starting an absolute zero usage was October of 2022, and they were charged for that construction meter from October, I think, through March when this one November,
yeah.
whenever it was picked up.
Yeah.
And so our recommendation on this one, just because it is a little unclear whether they could have made the request, we're not 100% sure, and it slipped through the cracks somewhere. We are recommending refunding them for that zero usage period.
It was compounded by the fact that we did not send billing notifications to the appropriate address.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. That was part of it too.
Mm.
So yeah. So there's a couple things there, couple lessons learned moving forward, but our staff doesn't have the authority to enact this refund, but our recommendation is that we actually do. I think it's the right thing to do in this case. So we were recommending $4,111.70, which is the total refund. There was some discussion because there was very low usage even going back to July but there was usage. July we had one unit, September of 2022 another unit. So again, staff's recommendation was to go back to October. That's where the zero starts and continues. But we did have some discussion. Is it appropriate to go back to where they really cut it off? Because it went from 50 down to 1. We leave that to the board's discretion. It would add a little bit to this 4,000, but our recommendation was just to do the 4,111. That is the zero usage months.
I move to support staff option.
Option 1. Second.
Okay. It's been motioned by Director Johnson, seconded by President Hamilton to, take the action, the variance request, approve the variance request at staff's recommended level. Roll call vote.
That's option 1.
Yeah, option 1.
Okay. Director Gasca,
Aye.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Johnson,
Aye.
Director Matt,
Aye.
Director Townsend Smith.
Aye.
Item 27, discussion and possible action to approve a bill adjustment.
We just did that one.
Oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
My finger slip. 28, appointment of officer and representatives.
Yes. So this is a unique one that we don't tackle very often. And I just wanted to say, first off, 98% of the time, me or staff is going to bring you a recommendation, right, on actions to take. This one is just a little unique. We're in a unique situation. And this all has to do with the County Water Authority representative, our board of directors representative. The County Water Authority rep, we have one board member. It's currently Mr. Kennedy, who represents us and has for the last 9 years. And but with his retirement, we did want to bring this forward to you for discussion on what this board would like to do moving forward, as far as representation on the County Water Authority board. I'll just preface all this by saying, the board itself, board attendance itself, they provide a per diem, $150 per day. That is all they'll provide for a representative. So Mr. Kennedy, has been representing us for some time, and I think it would be willing to continue to represent us if that's the board's wishes. But with some other assistance, I guess, involved in, as needed assistance to the general manager and that. And so we have a contract in front of us for $3,000 a month to kind of provide all those services. Again, the $150 is all that's allowed by the County Water Authority, for that representation, but kind of a altogether package. Obviously the board has options, right? You can appoint whoever you want. Historically, it's been at Rainbow, it's been the general manager. I think, the thought being, and I read through some of the old appointments and things like that, just to try to, get my hands around the appointment, or how it's been done in the past. Seems to be, obviously it empowers the general manager to some degree, to sit on that board. But to be quite honest, agency to agency, it varies, right? Typically it's either the general manager or a board member. So anyways, we're going to leave it to the board to decide which way we want to go forward. But you do have a couple of options. Obviously we can continue with Mr. Kennedy representing us, or you can choose to select someone else. There is a resolution attached. So if you did choose, or you did decide you wanted to select someone to represent the district on the board, that resolution is ready to go to be able to do that. But not advocating really anyway, to be quite honest. We want to do what's best for the district, and that's all I'm after, and that's all I think we're all after. So anyways, want to bring that to you today and hopefully come to some sort of resolution on what we want to do moving forward.
Jake, is that something you would be willing to do?
I would be. Obviously I'm new to the county as well, not new to water issues in general. And I'm coming up to speed really fast. Like fire hose fast. But yes, obviously, the district employs me, full time. And so if that's something that you desire, I'd be more than willing to do that. Like I said, it's, pleasure of the board.
As a board member, I will share, I am not in favor of option 2, which is paying a consultant $3,000 to attend. So I support option 1. And if there's no other candidate, I personally will volunteer to serve.
Yeah. I agree with Julie on that. I'm not in favor of hiring anybody to sit in a chair for us, unless there are other activities that individual could be compensated for. My observation over the last 7 years is that with the Water Authority, of the 36 representatives, those that are most effective are either general managers or board members who have been involved in water for multiple years. And the other representatives on that board essentially, I don't know the right term, but vote the party line. They just, they're to use a derogatory term, they're space occupiers. They don't contribute to the effective management of the board or the Water Authority. So if we're going to have a participant on that board, I would recommend it to be someone who is very familiar with water and has been involved for a while throughout the political aspects of what's going on. And with that, I'd basically recommend we continue with the general manager.
Yeah, I guess I've got a couple questions.
Sure.
Because well, the benefit I see is we're engaged with discussions with them to work things out.
Correct.
So being there that additional time is beneficial. From the standpoint of you supporting that. On the other hand, we're also cranking up discussions with Eastern. And my question would be, where's your time best well spent? If there's conflicts, and does it make sense perhaps to send somebody like Robert or you got to make that kind of a decision,
right,
for us to understand.
I understand that. I don't think having a staff member would I think unnecessarily burden them.
Okay.
I love Robert and he would do a
Yeah.
great job for us.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I think
Yeah.
I think the idea was, having, if it's going to be somebody else, you kind of have the discernment of whether a meeting is necessary to go to or not, given the time constraints. And it may be,
Point well taken.
yeah, it may be we get to a point where, not very many of them are going to be instrumental for us to be at.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of the
Well,
unknown in the whole thing, how long and which ones are going to be. And so that's why I like the idea of having an internal would be, able to make that decision whether it's worth our time or not.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I guess one of the other questions is there provisions to have an alternate so that you can't make it and you send whoever's appropriate?
Well, there's a proxy. And
Proxy.
so
Okay.
and our current proxy is Gary Rant from Valley
Oh, okay.
Center. That is something we could take up too if we want to have a new proxy or whatever. But currently our proxy is Gary Rant from Valley Center.
Got it.
And so we're not there. Our vote counts with him.
Yeah. Understood.
I have a question. Hypothetically, let's say a year from now that we are detached, then we would no longer be sending a representative to that board anyway, right?
That's correct.
That's correct.
So
This is short, could be potentially short term.
could be very short term
sure.
or not. Yeah.
Could be one meeting or less.
So
Yep.
I want to clarify why I volunteered is I probably have the least amount of water knowledge on the board, but I also strongly support option 1 than option 2. And if option 1 is accepted, I am a team player, but I do agree with Hayden that Jake, you do have far more knowledge and we do have alternatives, but I don't feel comfortable having someone going to a meeting for $3,000 when all the other members are 150. And we just heard from our finance. So I am willing to do whatever is needed.
Just be clear, the 150 in the proposal, the 150 is the per diem for the meeting. There were other services that were provided, but it was kind of a package that you know.
I personally suggest that the board go for option 1.
And I
I'd
second
like to
that.
nominate Jake.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, option 1. There we go.
Director Gasca.
Director Mack made the motion, Director Gaska seconded. Roll call,
Director
please.
Gasca,
Aye.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Johnson,
Aye.
Director Matt,
I
Director Townsend Smith.
Aye.
I don't know whether to thank you or not.
Right now.
Well,
But I think it would
You
be,
wanted the board to decide.
I think it would be worthwhile though to explore the proxy.
Yes.
I don't have any problem seeing Gary Arant as the proxy the way it's been,
Been a good partner.
but I'd rather see us handling our business. And if, we can do a proxy with internally, then
Can we do Julie as the proxy then?
I'm here to serve, whatever you want.
We have that
That-
scheduled to bring back that
Yeah.
resolution at
Yeah.
the December board meeting once this decision was made.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
There you go.
yeah, that
Okay.
works.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, item 29, fingers in the right spot. Board member requests for authorization to attend upcoming meetings, conferences, seminars.
Are there any?
I think everybody's already committed to the
Aqua.
aqua, so
Right. There's nothing else coming up. And Julie, I have a note to register you for the Leadership Academy when it becomes available, but it hasn't become available yet.
And I am requesting to attend in April, the training, the 4-day training for board members. So I can request that. And Patty, I don't know if you wanted to go as well.
That's the CSDA training.
Yes.
That's the one. So me and
Yes.
Michael went on.
Yes.
on Monday. It is great.
good.
Prefer to do.
This is the one that also determines your qualification for
District of Distinction.
District of Distinction, correct? Do
Yeah.
we need to refresh any board members on that? Is there in other words, do you have to take that course every X period of time or just take the course once?
No, those, you only take them once. They last forever, but there are these refreshers that did come up this this time through Elsinore Valley. But you're not required to refresh them once you've completed all the modules.
Okay, well, I'm just saying it'd be nice if we could do a review to make sure that something's not slipping through the crack there.
Right, I can send out a list of when everybody completed their training, if they want to then look at these refreshers when they become available. I could do that for you. I have that available already.
Okay.
Yeah. And I
Thank
just
you.
want to let everybody know that they just got announcement that the CSDA quarterly dinner meeting is on November 16th. So if you want to go, let me know by November 8th. So I can meet
That's
there.
interesting. That's the same as the San Diego County Water Authority Board meeting too, right? Same day.
Theirs is on
Mm.
November 16th. I believe it is.
It's during the day, but it's just,
Right. This is the dinner meeting that night.
Yeah.
so the dinner meeting is the 16th of November.
Correct.
Where is the dinner?
That's down at the butcher. Is it butcher shop?
Butcher shop?
Butcher shop,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd like to go down.
Okay.
Put my name in as well.
May I be undecided at this time?
Excited.
Well, it's my birthday week.
Oh.
Week. Birthday week.
Yeah.
Chad,
I like that a lot. I'm gonna use that at my house.
birthday week.
Yeah, right.
I might do birthday year soon.
Okay. Board information items, the receive and file, financial items, general manager's report. No,
Oh,
you're good.
I'm good. I'm good.
Ops.
I've set it up today.
Okay. Ops.
Good.
Good. Engineering,
Good, unless any directors have any questions.
administrative services,
Nothing to add.
financial comments.
Tracy's not here.
I guess, good.
Okay, list of suggested agenda items for the next regular board meeting. I've got one. It's that this thing flowed so smoothly with President Hamilton being remote and making all the motions. Maybe we should continue that.
Or
Nick?
remote work.
No.
Forcing
No. Okay.
One of the things I'll have on next month's calendar is establishing the 2024 board meeting schedule.
Okay.
So
Oh,
if you
yeah.
anything to change, so let us know.
I have something that since Dawn is retiring, I am requesting that we have some form of celebration of recognition on that day.
Okay.
Yeah, the one other thing, I don't know if I'm gonna make it or not now. Today is they're doing a meeting on the crop swap program.
Right, yeah.
So they've got 6 or 7 agencies are getting together to talk about that kind of regional crop swap.
Yeah.
And so I'll probably put an update on that December
Hey,
board.
hey, Jake, cut and run. I mean, we're almost through you. And the last meeting you guys had, I walked in an hour late. So just as you were finishing up.
Okay. Nothing else? I guess we're adjourned till December 5th.
Good.
Thank you.
Good job, Bill. Perfect timing.
Hey, team, good. I got a right here about crop swap.
Thank you, everyone.